Hi, I'm Tafolla. In this video today, what I'd like to do is break down a lot of the techniques that formulate the bulk of my style. We're going to do a lot of string skipping, we're going to do a lot of chromatic licks, we're going to use a lot of open string licks, and then I'm going to take a lot of my favorite solos off my albums and break them down lick for lick. So let's get going. I'm going to give you a high E string, tune your high E to mine, then tune the rest of the strings to your high E. If you need to stop the tape, go ahead. Once you're in tune, then we'll get started. What I'd like to do right now is to show you how I get my chromatic passages within licks. It's very easy. All I do is combine major and minor blues scales. In the key of E, we'll take the E major 3-note per string blues scale, or my personalized version of it, and then in C sharp minor, it's relative minor to E, the 3-note per string blues scale as well. And here's the E major blues scale. What I'm going to do now is show you exactly what I did. This is my version of a 3-note per string blues scale, a major blues scale. I'm starting with the 5th, getting your flat 5, your 4th, your 3rd, root, and then flat 7. Once again. From there, I'm just taking it down in octaves. At the end of that, what I did was just add a tail to it, now, some chromatic notes right at the end. Going from the C sharp minor, which is its relative minor, all the way up to E. Finishing off with an E7th chord. Okay, now let me play it for you slowly, the whole thing in tempo. You've heard me mention relative minor, which is a C sharp. And that's what I'm going to do right now, is play the C sharp minor blues scale, and it's over an E chord still. Oddly enough, the C sharp minor blues scale creates a major sound when played over an E. Here's the breakdown of this C sharp minor blues scale. It's the 5th, flat 5, 4, flat 3, 1, flat 7. This is your basic C sharp minor blues scale. And we're looking at it once again as an E major blues scale, or it has a nice major sound over the E chord. To get the E major blues scale, all I did was just take that same scale in C sharp minor, but with your 4th finger, raise that 3rd up. So you can see the 1-note difference in the scale. E major, C sharp minor. Let's take that C sharp minor blues scale and continue playing it down in octaves. Okay, now let's take both of these scales, C sharp minor blues scale and the E major blues scale, and put them both together and see what they sound like. The way that I came up with this was by taking a 6-note sequence from each scale. First the E major blues scale, and then the C sharp minor blues scale. Okay, now that we've got the basic concept, this is something I really use a lot. Let's get into some variations of this using some different licks. Okay, let's break that down. Let's break it down to something, the smallest form of that lick. And here's what I'm doing. And after that, what I'm doing is just repeating in octaves. But let's break this down and show you exactly what I'm doing. I'm going fifth, flat third, third, root, flat seven, getting up to that third again, and then to the E. So basically what I'm doing is focusing around the tonal center of the chord, of an E major chord, and using chromatic notes to tie them all in together. Here's a kind of a medium range version of this that you can use to practice over and over again in succession to kind of work it up to speed. This is a lick that also occurs in one of my songs, the solo breakdown in For Blue. Okay, this is basically just a condensed version or part of the lick that I use for an exercise to round back and forth for the mechanics of getting the lick together, descending, ascending, and then descending, and so forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The thing that I use this for is just basically for a good exercise to work on the mechanics of the right hand, developing the picking. And what I'm doing here is putting a accent on every set of 6, or every set of 6 tuplets. This next lick is a variation of what we've done before, only what I'm going to do now is carry on a set of 6 all the way down the high E and the B, because it has a certain tonality, it has a certain frequency response when you just play a lick on 2 strings rather than jumping around from different strings. Okay, let's break this one down. All I've done now is just take the same lick that I've done before, only repeating it on the high E and the B string to give a different tonality. Okay, here's just another version of the E major blues scale and the C sharp minor blues scale combined, which is a little easier to finger. It gives you a little bit more fingering ability. The reason this is easier to finger for me is that normally when I do things, I'll take everything down in a 6-note sequence in octaves. So starting with the first set of 6, by taking that down in octaves, it becomes a little bit more difficult as you get to the low E and the A string. So what I've done now is just take the E major blues scale and then only gone down as far as the B string, and then taken what's left on the G string of the C sharp minor. Much easier to finger, and it leaves a nice chromatic passage between the B and the G. Okay, now let me show you the whole thing slowly. Here's another example combining both of the scales. this one's different than the other examples that I've showed you because, for one, I'm ascending rather than descending. And then the other thing is that I'm combining 3-note chromatic passages from each scale to create a total of a 6-note chromatic passage. With this one, I'm starting at the 14th fret on the low E string and using a 3-note chromatic passage from the C sharp minor scale, and then a 3-note chromatic passage from the E major scale, creating a 6-note chromatic passage. And right there, what I'm doing is just getting a part of the C sharp minor blues scale. So after that, I'm repeating in octaves. Up until now, we've done everything basically in the key of E. Right now, I'm going to switch everything to A and use the A major and F sharp, which is, once again, the relative minor to A, and show you some new licks in this key. What I did here was take the A major blues scale, down to the F sharp minor blues scale, and from there go to the similar pattern which we've done in E. And combine them all together to make one long lick. This next one is a lick that, rather than shift in 6-note sequences, is going to shift in a little bit longer it's going to have a different vibe to it. What I'm doing is going to take an ascending version of the F sharp minor blues scale and go up to the D and the G string and then switch to the A major blues scale and continue up all the way to the high E string from there. Okay, what I've done here is take the F sharp minor blues scale starting on the 4th. Up until this point, I've played the same thing in octaves, and I'm switching to the A major blues scale, starting on the D string, and starting on the 4th again, and continuing up the same way as I did previously. If you've noticed, everything we've done so far has had an alternate picked feel to it. And I do a lot of private teaching, and a lot of my students one of the biggest questions is, how do I pick fast? How do I pick fast? Well, how do you pick clean is a whole nother subject as well. And to pick fast and clean, I recommend alternate picking. That's what I do. I use a standard alternate picking all the time, although there are different techniques. There's a economy or sweep picking, which is fine, but I find alternate picking to be very aggressive and very precise, very aggressive feel. And in the beginning of alternate picking, one thing I noticed, a lot of people have a hard time really realizing that they are, or if they are or not, alternate picking. Therefore, what I suggest is exaggerate the movement at first to make sure you're really getting that alternate picking going. If the lick is something like this, say to yourself, down, up, down, up, down, up, as you're actually picking it. And exaggerate the movement with the right hand just to make sure you are doing standard alternate picking. As you can see right there, I'm exaggerating the motion, which is something you'll want to do right in the beginning to assure that you are doing proper alternate picking. However, after you've done that, you'll want to practice the economy of motion, which is basically never taking the pick farther than it has to be from the string. So you don't want to be flapping all over the place. You want to have a real tight motion after a while. Here's a musical example I've composed called Systematic Chromatic Static. This compiles a number of my favorite chromatic style licks on one song. Okay, let's take this now and demonstrate this lick at a time, or rather than that, we'll break it down into a few sections, section at a time. Okay, here's section number 2, up to speed. Okay, let's take that one slow. The third section is a little bit longer. It sounds like this. And slow. Here's section number 4, up to speed. Here's section number 4, slow down. And here's section number 5. And section number 5, slow.
Do another song right now called The Six-String Soufflé.
How do I use open strings? Well, the way I use open strings is basically after a couple of fretted notes, okay? In the key of A or E, you can basically use almost any string and it becomes a note in the scale. So I'll pull off or pick a few notes, pull off to an open string, and it's usually to create wider intervals within licks and arpeggios, and it has a nice distinctive sound to it. Let's go to the open A string. Take the open A string, go to the 4th fret on the A string, and you have the C sharp. That makes the 3rd. Go to the 7th fret on the D string, you have the octave of the root, that's the A of course, and you pull off to the D, we have the 4th. So what you have there is a nice open string lick, and it sounds great over A. Very simple, but effective. If you want to take maybe use the open G now and take a bend from the G sharp, or rather F sharp to the G on the D string, and then hit the open G, you have something like that. So you can kind of see how that works, right? Let's start slowly building up an arsenal of open string techniques. You can use the E. The E, of course, has a 5th to A. One of the techniques that occurs more and more in my playing every day is the use of open strings. Open strings can be very useful for getting wider, creating wider intervals within scales and licks. It also helps to move from one place in the next to the other, because when you have the open string ringing, you can jump around while something's ringing and get to the next note. This next piece is something that I've composed which demonstrates a lot of the open string licks that I use. Okay, now that you have some kind of an idea about the concept, let's take the example which I just played, Open Says Me, and show it lick by lick, and you see a lot of the things that I do in there have open strings galore. And here's section number 2. Okay, this is a 1-4-5 chord progression, so up until now we've played against the A chord. Right now I'm switching to D, so naturally my open strings and the licks will all reflect the chord of D, or D7. Here's number 4, we're going back to the A chord, so everything I do, all the open strings and scales will naturally reflect again the chord of A7. this is the last section, section number 5. Starts off with an E chord, moves to a D, and then finales off with an A. So let's try this one fast. Okay, this next piece coming up here is an example using open strings in a minor sense. I'm playing in C sharp minor, and everything I do will revolve around the C sharp minor or the arpeggios within C sharp minor, E major, A major, things of that nature. I'm following the chord structures, and I'm trying to use open strings in everywhere I can. Okay, this one's in C sharp minor, and although I'm not particularly following the chords too closely, I'm just playing in C sharp minor, which still has a good feel, and I'm kind of using my ear to follow the notes that sound good against the chords, so it still has a good melodic content, but I'm not paying that close attention to the progression as, let's say, a jazz player would. And let's just go ahead and break this down for you and go lick by lick, or rather section by section. Here's section number 1. Okay, let's take that section now and let's break it down for you and play it slower. Okay, here's section number 2 up to speed. Okay, let's take that section slow. Here's section number 2 slow. And here's section number 3 up to speed. This next piece is the unaccompanied guitar solo called Wrecking Ball off my In for Blue album on Shrapnel Records. And what it displays is a basic use of string skipping and 3-note per string blues scales and a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs. And I'm going to show you the techniques that I've used to do this and then break the solo down for you. The piece that I just played for you had a lot of string skipping. What string skipping basically is not just going to the adjacent strings such as E and B, but maybe going from the high E string to the G string. The reason for this, well, the reason I use string skipping is to either get a wider interval within the lick or just to make sequencing parts a lot easier. There's a certain pattern that I use in a lot of my string skipping stuff, as well as just when I'm playing on adjacent strings. And the pattern goes like this. Now right there I didn't do some string skipping, but this is going to be helpful when we do start doing the string skipping. Therefore, let me break this lick down for you. And this is basically picking 3 notes, pulling off 2, picking 3, and then hammering on 2. Once again. So you can see pick 3, 1, 2, 3, pull off 2, pick 3, hammer on 2, and then play that in succession. Now this is something that I use a lot, like I said, not only in just adjacent string playing, but in string skipping. So let's take a very simple string skipping lick and just apply that to this. This is in the key of A, by the way. And let's do that one slow for you. Same principle, just picking 3, hammer on 2, pick 3, pull off 2, but I'm using the G string, skipping the D, and using the A. Okay, now that I've shown you the techniques that I've used to play the song, let's get on with breaking it down. And let's take it section by section. And here's the first section. This is in the key of A. Okay, this phrase not only incorporates some string skipping, but as well as some other phrases that I use, some dominant arpeggios, and then just some overall blues phrasing. So kind of combining everything to make it work into one piece. Okay, here's the same section slow. Okay, here's section number 2. This is a basic blues lick that separates the 2 string skipping sections. And section number 2 slow. This next section is over an E chord, and it combines string skipping with some phrasing and a dominant arpeggio to finish off the solo. And here it is. This next piece is a song called Mississippi Mud. It's off my In for Blue album. And what I'm going to do after you hear it is I'm going to break it down for you. So let's take a listen to it, and then we'll go through it and take it lick by lick. Okay, let's play it at a slower tempo so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, let's try and analyze this a little bit, okay? First of all, I'm playing in A, and the tonality is A major blues, or A7. And I'm starting off with a nice bend. Getting a nice blues scale with a tap, harmonic tap. Some open string stuff on the A there. Not a whole lot of intricate open string stuff, but enough to warrant talking about it. Next. Another nice open string lick. Up to the octave and a little bit more bendy work up there. Now I'll play the same thing for you a little slower. Okay, let's take a look at this one. First of all, I'm in the key of D, so I'm focusing around the tonality of a D7 or a D major blues sound. This first lick is a two-string bend lick, and I'm using the thumb and the first finger to hold the pick while I'm using my middle finger to pluck a few notes in the B string. Okay, from here what I'm doing is just using a couple of open strings to get to the D within a D7 arpeggio. Okay, now I'm moving to the key of A major, so I'm using the relative key, F sharp minor blues. Back to D. Okay, this is the third section, and what it's doing is we got a breakdown that's very similar to the solo breakdown in Wrecking Ball. Same technique, but a little different. There's a lot of string skipping in it, so let's take a look at it. Okay, let's take a look at this one at a slower pace. Okay, let's take a look at this one. First of all, I'm playing in the key of E7, so I'm going to work around that tonality. In my kind of a 3-note per string personalized version of a blues scale, I'm going to descend, or ascend rather, with a pattern that is pick 3, pull off 2, pick 3, hammer on 2, and it goes straight up like this. Switch positions. All the way to the A. Changing keys to the D. Then to A major. Descending 4s. Then a string skipping arpeggio. Really wide octave. Back into the D. Here's the last section of this, the tail ending, and it's an E. Okay, let's hear this one at a slow tempo.